that. Now, you guys, you talked about your health experiences. You know, when you really started seeing what the water was doing for you, it got you excited to go out and share it with other folks. Let's talk about those results that you guys had, because I know that you've had some pretty awesome ones.
Well, I did. This is Bill again. You know, I said earlier, I'm 64 years old, and I've been blessed with pretty good health all my life. But, you know, the body does not last forever. You get a few years on you and things start wearing out. And quite frankly, 2 years ago, I was on the verge of moving out of a house that I did not want to leave, simply because I couldn't negotiate the stairs in the evening. I had arthritis in my right ankle, both knees, both shoulders. My left shoulder was so bad that I couldn't even use a drive-in window at a bank. I just could not extend my arm. I had high blood pressure that regularly ran about 160 over 101, 2, or 3. And I had acid reflux so bad, most people have no idea you can get it this bad, but on 2 separate occasions I'd actually been to the emergency room certain that I was having a heart attack. And a good friend of mine in Carolina called me and started telling me about this machine. And I've casually studied nutrition over the last 35 years or so. And he started talking about, acid and alkaline, and I understood some of the science about it, and I was immediately interested. And then he started spinning these yarns about this person and that person with this kind of health-related problem that found miraculous help and results, and this one and that one. And the more stories he told, quite frankly, the less I could believe him. But I'd known the guy forever, and I trust him. He's very trustworthy. So when I got off the phone, I called Paul and told him about it, and he said, well, we need to look into it. So we did. We spent a couple of weeks researching it and talking to chiropractors and patients and, people that were using it and doing all the research on the Internet and working through the garbage about these would-be even pretend machines that want to be like Magic. And we discovered that this was the one, and it was the leader in the field and the only way to go. And so we said, look, if what we're hearing here, even 50% of it is true, we need to invest in a machine. So he and I both bought a machine. Within 6 weeks on this water, my arthritis was 100% gone. I have no joint pain any place in my body. And I am still living in the house climbing the stairs regularly and didn't have to leave, thank goodness. My blood pressure over the same 6-week period went from 160 over 101, 2, or 3 down to where it is now, about 110 over 68 to 75. I found immediate help in my acid reflux, but it wasn't completely gone. It probably took 4.5 months, somewhere along there, before it was totally gone, but it is gone now. I haven't had a bout of that in 18 months. And you really haven't lived life until you've had acid reflux severely and then gotten rid of it. So, quite frankly, ask me how much money it would take for you to buy my machine back if I could not go out and buy another one or ever drink this water. I guarantee there's not enough money on earth. I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't go back to having those health conditions. But as miraculous as mine sounds, Paul's story is a little bit more impressive. And, quite honestly, it's a hard-to-believe story, but I happen to know the guy. I've known him all my life, and I happen to know that what he's telling you is true. Tell him your story, Paul.
Well, actually, I had the same kind of problem as far as arthritis because when I was 15 years old, I got hit by a car. And what it did is it busted up my left shoulder and my left knee. And at 15, I started taking pain medication for the problem. And then when I was in the military, I had 2 ruptured discs. And, of course, anybody that knows anything about the military knows they hand out medicine like candy. So I was taking Motrin, Valium, Darvon, and Bill even told me that I was going to die from taking all this pain medicine. Well, apparently it was having some real adverse effects on my health because in 1996 I had my first heart attack. Then in 2002 I had my second heart attack, and the doctors decided that I needed to have a stent or 2 put in, so they put a couple stents in, which supposedly was going to take care of all the problems. Well, that didn't really work too well because in 2004 I had a stroke, which pretty well knocked me out for about 6 months. And of course, by now I'm taking all this different medicine for the pain, the heart attack, the stroke, and I am just so lethargic. I'm not doing anything. So I start putting on weight, and I ended up developing diabetes. So I'm a basic train wreck is what it comes down to, because even with the medication, my blood pressure is running on a regular basis about 180 over 120. My sugar is around 350. And, I'm a candidate for another heart attack or another stroke any second. And lo and behold, one day Bill calls me and says, Paul, listen, I think I've got the answer to all of your health problems. And I said, really, what? And he says, water. And I said, come on. I mean, get serious. Water is water. He said, no, I'm telling you, this water is special. This has been around over in Japan for over 30 years in over 200 hospitals. It is a certified medical device over there. And he says, we really need to check it out. So as he said, for the next 2 weeks, every waking hour we had, we called and talked, and we became totally convinced that we had to try this. So we went ahead and bought the machine, each of us, and Chris, within 7 days, my blood pressure dropped from 180 over 120 down to 90 over 50. And actually, it scared me. I thought I was going to die from no blood pressure. So I called Bill up. I said, I don't know what to do. He said, you're over-medicated. I said, oh, okay. So I took all my little pills and I cut them in half. The second week, it was still too low. So I took all my little half pills and cut them in little quarter pills. Third week, it was the same way. So I called Bill up and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to quit taking my medicine. And he said, are you crazy? He says, you can't do that. You better call your doctor. I said, okay. What do you think my doctor's going to tell me? He said, well, yeah. He says, he's probably going to tell you you're going to cause him to miss his yacht payment or something. I said, exactly. I said, look, in 6 weeks, I've got an appointment with my cardiologist. I'm going to drink the water. I'll go over there and see, what he says. So I drink the water for the next 6 weeks, go over there. And when I walk in, he says, I want you to go across the hall. My nurse is going to run some tests. So she runs tests, triglycerides, cholesterol, and so forth. He comes back in with his flip chart, and he opens the flip chart, and he looks at the chart, and then he looks really funny at me. Then he looks back at the chart, and he shakes his head, and I said, what's wrong? He said, this report looks like you're 20 years old. I have never seen medicine work like this in my life. And of course, I hadn't told him I had quit taking it 6 weeks earlier. And so I asked him, I said, well, Doc, let me try to figure this out. I mean, should we increase it, decrease the medicine? What should we do? He said, oh, no. He said, I want you to keep taking your medicine exactly like you're taking it. I said, as long as you're sure, I'll tell my brother that, because 6 weeks ago, I quit taking my medicine. This man literally jumped out of his chair, stood over top of me, and screamed at me and said, who told you to do that? I said, well, actually, you just did 2 minutes ago. He said, well, you've had 2 heart attacks and a stroke. You have got to take this medicine. I said, I don't understand. I said, I'm drinking alkalized, ionized, restructured water, and you just told me that my report returned, me to a 20-year-old. Why do I need to take this medicine? And he very abruptly said, because I said so. I said, well, that just doesn't quite work with me. And he said, well, if you're not going to follow my advice, I'm not going to treat you, and left the room. So I haven't been looking for him since. And on top of it, I've also dropped 37 pounds without changing my diet or exercising, which, of course, I've been planning to, but you know how that goes.
Well, that story is so great. I've heard that a number of times, and I could hear it every day for the rest of my life.